Welcome to Mining Now, everyone. I'm your host, Jared Downey. Today we have, I believe it's their first time on the show, actually. We've got Carlos Fernandez, the CEO of TASSTA Americas, and Eric LaRue, CEO and founder of Ambra Solutions. Gentlemen, welcome.
Thanks.
Hi, thanks. Hi, Jared.
Where's everybody located right now? I was asking you off screen, but I'll ask you the same question again, just so the audience knows. Eric, where are you at?
I'm in Montreal, actually, today.
Yeah, yep. You live near there, right?
Yeah, I live outside of Montreal, so a small city outside of Montreal. Yep, nice place for mining as well.
I don't know if anybody has more Canadian winters than Quebec. If anybody hasn't gone there,
it is to come.
It is everything you see in a painting and colder than you'd expect.
Yep, and humid, cold and humid. We have everything.
Yeah, we had such a great time. My sister and her family with my wife, we went there last year and just went to a little town there. Just unbelievable time we had together. Carlos, where are you based?
Look, I'm based in Florida now, but I'm in Spain right now, so I'm enjoying a good European vacation here.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, talking about winters, I have my own Canada Goose, so I consider myself a nearly true Canadian already.
The Canada Goose is it is well named. That is maybe one of the best named products in the world. Carlos, I want to start with you. Talking about TASSTA, just who they are as a company, bird's eye view, and then, of course, Eric, the same question to you about Ambra.
Yeah, okay. So TASSTA Americas is a company that, the only thing we do is mission-critical push-to-talk over broadband. So basically, the increased reliability and availability of, broadband networks, especially for private deployments, and, mines are kind of early adopter of the technology, is kind of pushing the end users to migrate from traditional radio or traditional LMR radio, all these radios that we've seen, with police and people, professional workers, into, devices that are LTE enabled, and they can basically reuse their single network for both, data and voice. So basically what we do, mission critical push to talk.
So are you, is that a hardware provider then?
We're a software provider.
We provider.
Yeah, we try to be hardware agnostic, so our partners and integrators and also the end users can basically choose the device that suits them better, and we try to basically work with every professional device out in the market.
Got it. Okay, and we'll of course dig into more of that into the show. Ambra, let's talk about that, Eric.
Yep. So Ambra, for the past 15 years, has been designing and deploying mission-critical networks for enabling use cases such as push-to-talk and other use cases as we'll discuss, such as remote control of machines and so on. So really what our focus is deployed the most robust and most reliable network, because today, mining, they rely on a single robust infrastructure to enable use cases. So that's what we do. We're in 10 different countries now, and we're deploying mission-critical network everywhere in the world, basically.
Wow. Where did the company start?
It started in my basement in Montreal, actually, 15 years ago. Yeah.
Wow. Well, congratulations. So, okay. So wait, is Ambra then, are you doing actual install then?
The actual installation is, depending on the country, is done by local contractors. So typically we'll be pre-configuring, designing everything. We'll be shipping those equipment to, let's say, the mining site, and will be installed either by the mining company itself or a local contractor. We'll be there to supervise, to do the commissioning, but the actual physical installation usually is done by a local contractor.
So so Carlos, maybe jump over to you. What's the relation? I'll actually let both of you jump in on it. What is the partnership between the two organizations?
Yeah, of course, for us, to deploy mission critical push to talk over a broadband network, we do need a broadband network. Mm-hmm. So basically, Ambra comes first, and Ambra is one of the most, specialized and professional companies that we know of in terms of deploying, those private networks for verticals such as mining and other similar critical infrastructure verticals. So we partner with Eric. We've known each other and compete against each other since, 15 years, I think already or more. So yeah, basically now we're partnering together and we are adding those, mission critical push to talk services into, previously deployed, LTE networks by Ambra.
Let's talk about our heavy industry world tour brought to you by Savona Equipment, supplying mining equipment worldwide. And Corporate Traveler Canada, helping companies travel the globe simpler, faster, easier. We are heading to events across North America and Australia and filming episodes on location. Email us at info@crownsman.com to be part of Crownsman's Heavy Industry World Tour. Did you know cementitious binders can be responsible for up to 70% of the total GHG footprint of mine backfilling processes? Now you can replace up to 50% of the binder in your mine backfill operations with Graybond, Graybond's new low-carbon cementitious binder. This lime-based alternative binder maintains a 40 to 70% lower GHG footprint compared to typical cement and can adapt to varying mine conditions without compromising performance. Learn more about Graybond at graybond.com. CIM is Canada's leading technical institute dedicated to the sustainability of our industry. Members enjoy professional growth opportunities through CIM libraries, publications, webinars, societies, and the job board. Experience the CIM community firsthand at the Conference of Metallurgists August 19th to 22nd, ICARD September 16th to 20th, and the CIM Health and Safety Conference October 6th to 8th. Visit CIM.org for more information and join CIM today.
So what was, well, this is interesting. So when you were competing, I'm an interviewer, it's just my job. When you were competing, what was the competition then?
I come from traditional radio. So I've been doing, traditional LMR radio for 20 years, and there's a point in history where, some companies started to push for LTE broadband networks, for communication into the mining sites. That's, Eric and, Ambra in his early days. And I was still, with the traditional LMR radio company trying to pitch the mining sites that, it was not yet time to go into LTE.
Right.
So that's where the competition generated. But, it was, clearly a visionary here in terms of Eric. And that's why I respect Eric so much, And yeah, of course, I do think the technology nowadays is ready for that. And I've also moved myself into mission critical LTE.
This is very interesting because Eric, there was a time where that crossover, you had to make a very careful decision.
Exactly, because if we go like 7 years ago, doing push or talk over LTE wasn't even imaginable. So we were deploying 4G, 5G mostly for remotely controlling machines, for providing data, but voice was still using that separate leaky feeder system, using traditional LMR. So there was still two networks in parallel, one for voice, one for data. But now that mining has been seeing that 4G, 5G network to work so well, to have actually a better coverage than the traditional LMR. So now they've been putting more and more voice services on top of this. So, and today, this is why we've been working with TASSTA, which is now a software, which is, we call it running over the 4G, 5G network to provide that voice, but even much more than voice, because that was a limitation of the old leaky feeder system that Carlos was selling. It was only voice, it wasn't data. So now with the same infrastructure, you can do both voice and data.
Effortless Corporate Traveler Management is here with Corporate Traveler Canada. Boost your business with trusted expert solutions that save time, money, and enhance the traveler experience. Trusted by thousands of companies worldwide. Book and track your travels on your phone or let your dedicated consultant handle it for you. Enjoy 24/7 support and live chat from any time zone and get real-time travel alerts anywhere you go. Your next business trip just got easier. Learn more about Corporate Traveler Canada at corporatetraveler.ca. Calling all industry leaders. Is your company driving innovation in mining, energy, construction, transportation, agriculture, and beyond? Join the Crownsman Show, where experts like you share insights, tackle challenges, and explore opportunities shaping our world. Become a featured guest and showcase your expertise to millions worldwide. It's your time to be the voice of heavy industry. Reserve your spot today. Email us at info@crownsman.com or visit crownsman.com.
I just want to spend just a second on the leaky feeder system because it's kind of fascinating. You think of sometimes you see technology and you think it's going to be more complicated. Leaky feeder, I'm going to give my butchered understanding of it, is basically a cable with leaks in it so radio waves can get in, right?
Correct.
Get in and out. Is that right?
Yes, but they're different kind of leaky feeder, by the way. Like the leaky feeder for the voice, it's a cable that is, the whole mine is daisy chain. So let's say if you have an issue with one leaky feeder, the whole mine gets affected. Whereas the new leaky feeder, by the way, they can radiate more than voice. They can radiate both frequencies that are higher, that supports voice and data. But also the design is different. So you no longer have that limitation of daisy chaining. So if you have an issue, only that section will be affected. The whole mine will still work. So there's been a lot of involvement, new technologies in that leaky feeder technology.
Oh, including that, right. So, okay, so Carlos, let's talk about then you pivot into this, basically the LTE networks and that. When you say LTE, do you say is LTE different than 4G, or is it all just a different version of LTE?
Same. 4G and LTE is the same.
Okay, so you transitioned into that, and then what was that? When did you know it was time to sort of make that pivot?
Look, and you need to understand this. This is a very traditional market. I mean, voice, of course, is a traditional usage, and then people are very proud on how redundant and secure are their networks. So for something like a mining site, to basically trust their communications into something different, it needs to prove, or it needs to be proven that that new network is going to be as secure as the old one, let's say, because of course you can add very nice features that we'll discuss in a little bit, but if the basic, which is the voice and the emergency communication, doesn't work, then they are not ready. So basically, at some point you feel that the technology is mature enough, the broadband manufacturers are mature enough. There are companies that they can deploy, like they were used to deploy radio networks, and of course the software companies that are preparing these new applications that, in a sense, they turn a smartphone or an Android or iOS device into a radio. That software is reaching the point where it can be considered mission critical, and I think that was the point. You started to see that in the early stages of this technology, only companies that couldn't afford a radio system, were using push to talk over LTE. But when you see those customers when you see those customers growing in terms of the profile of the customer, like now we start having customers that they can afford radio system, but their mindset is changing, so they can now really embrace mission critical over LTE, the new functionalities, the savings, because now they only need to maintain one network, not two. So at the end of the day, that was the moment that I saw. It was a few years ago, of course. COVID interrupted everything. But yeah, I've been here already like 3-4 years, and I have to say that the growth is exponential.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's the whole industry. There's still tons of people on the legacy systems, right?
Yeah, Brownfield are still using or extending the system that they have, right? But I will say that new greenfield mine is now are all leaning toward 4G, 5G. So why would they install like an old technology where now they can have one infrastructure that can do both voice and data for the greenfield mines?
What do you? And I'll ask this question to both of you. When customers are coming to you, what sort of are they coming with a problem? Are they because of a legacy technology, or are they just? How do you even start that communication with them? Do they sort of lay out what they need? I'm always interested in those initial hours of conversation when you're onboarding something like this, which is a pretty critical. You keep using the word critical, and that's what it is. We've done lots of episodes about communication, and it's just there's no room for error in mine, obviously. So what is it? What is the initial conversations like when you start talking about this technology?
Why do you deploy the 4G, 5G network is to enable specific use cases. So in the past years, those specific use cases has been mostly like remote control of machines and let's say tracking people in real time in case of emergency. So those are use cases that requires like a really robust and high speed data network. So that's what we've been deploying a lot in the past years. Now, once that network is deployed, this is where you can start adding use cases such as the push to talk. So this is why, like initially, it was to solve an issue of how do I remotely control my machines. And COVID just increased those kind of projects because during the COVID time, you had to remotely operate machines from remote. So there was a lot of project of remote control of machine. But now that network is in place, it's fully redundant, is highly robust because we even have like mining companies that are remotely controlling their cage using our network. So you can imagine that it's a really robust network and we've never had any outage since we've been deploying all of those networks. So now mining companies see that this is a robust network. Now we can put more mission critical use cases, and this is where Carlos now is with his application is adding that voice functionality. So Carlos, maybe I can.
No, I was going to say, the initial conversations typically happen. Of course, the IT departments of the mining sites. They've heard about the technology. They have typically, if it's a brownfield site, they have existing site. They have their own radio network. Sometimes that radio network is getting end of life. So they are unsure of what's the next step. So they are also unsure of, is this new technology going to be good enough? Not. So basically, this first, approach is kind of reassuring them of the functionalities that they can have with the technology, all the, good things and also the limitations of the technology as well, because I think it's important to basically, tell everybody, what they can get and what they cannot get. And also it's very important to give them a path between their old network and the new network, because there are ways to interconnect both for a migration period,
Can we get back to that? Because I wanted to just, I want to cover it, but I also want, just for anybody who's not familiar, I think we should probably go into what TASSTA is actually offering. Because I'm on your website, and you've got like T-Flex, T-Rodin. Did you say, am I saying that? Rodin?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
The T-Commander, M-U-G-E-N. How do you say it?
Mugen. Yeah.
And T-Recorder, T-Lion, T-Brother, T-Bridge. So, okay. Can you break that down? I always think if you're 7 years old and listening to this and you're interested, you better have a pretty clear real world understanding of what we're talking about here. So can you just sort of break down, maybe not everyone, but just a few of them, just to sort of paint a picture of what we're actually looking at from a deployment standpoint?
Yeah, look, I'm going to make it very easy. So basically, T-Lion, T-Brother, those are the two servers. So basically, when you deploy a TASSTA system, you deploy something on-prem, on the mining
two
side.
Physical servers.
Two physical servers or virtual machines, but there are two physical servers. These are the core of the infrastructure. These are the servers that are going to handle all the traffic, that are going to store all the information, all the voice recordings, the video recordings, and they're going to control the signaling between the devices. So basically, you have your two servers and the recorder, because the voice is recorded, of course. It's a mission-critical network. And then on the client side, again, making it very easy, you have your mobile client, which we call T-Flex. Is nothing but a professional device that is LTE enabled. It can be your commercial smartphone for sure, but it can be a device with a real push-to-talk or an emergency button or anything. So that's what we call T-Flex. And then you have your Rodin, which is your control room, your dispatchers, that basically they work through a PC and they can control, the maps of the mining. They can control the incoming emergency calls. They can patch groups and basically distribute and organize the communication. So it's a super simple deployment because, of course, the infrastructure that we use to communicate is the existing private 4G, 5G network that they have. So the only thing you need are a couple of servers and then your client applications.
Okay, let me, so let me clarify this. So you were saying earlier about brand agnostic then. So this is software inside a phone or inside, you said like one with a push button. What would an example of that device be? It's not a standard radio. It must be a little different.
No, it is an Android device or an iOS device. And some of them, they look like your traditional smartphone. And some of them, they just don't even have a screen.
Eric's getting one.
I have one here. So that's an example of a push-to-talk radio, actually. So with a channel selector on the top. So that's an example of so TASSTA will be running on that device.
Okay, so that's not a standard radio though. That's a particular device for the LTE network.
Exactly, you put a SIM card into that device.
Got it. Okay, so you can buy those. Okay, so someone now who's bringing that to market? Eric, is that your company that's bringing those devices to the market? And then Carlos, you've got the software inside the device. Is that the setup?
Well, yeah, and there's multiple manufacturers, right? So we have maybe 7 or 8 different vendors that manufacture those kind of devices, and then we load TASSTAs on those devices, and then we ship it to the mining companies.
And Gerard, the beauty of this is as well, if you're an engineer that you are on-site and off-site, this is also working out of your iPhone. So maybe you don't need a specific phone because you are not on the site. You're basically, again, an engineer supporting from your headquarters.
Right.
So, suddenly now you can be in the communications network without this geographical limitation that traditional radio deployments have. Because
we should just take a second on that. That's a major difference, right? That somebody could, basically head of engineering there could be a mine in Mexico. They could be in Vancouver. Yeah. We've had so much discussion on this show about leveraging manpower and skill set because, of course, it's hard to find skilled people right now. It's very challenging. And be able to leverage that. This is, again, one of those channels that allows people to do that. You could have someone with a knowledge base that is applicable to multiple mines. They can now communicate with those mines, right?
And that's what mining companies now, they do. They have those control center, and they are remotely talking to people, having video call with people, or remotely controlling machines remotely. So this is where the mining industry is going, actually.
At this point, then, I want to, because of course I'm asking my questions, but I want to ask both of you, what are some good questions that you get, or what are some, maybe even some roadblocks? We don't want to just talk about how wonderful everything is on the show, because of course people are sitting here watching, asking questions in their own mind, hoping I do. So, what are some good questions you get when people are thinking about onboarding? Let's call it that midway point where they know the price is okay and all that sort of thing, but they're thinking, is this the right move, and is this the right time? What are some questions both of you have fielded? Eric, probably you're on the ground a little bit more, right? So you probably field them. But I'll ask both of you and maybe just compare notes. Again, talking about that close to onboarding.
Yeah, I mean, I can go with the first one, and it's a very simple one. Eric showed you this device. So the simple question from the user is this device going to sound like my old radio? Is this going to be as powerful? So, when you go into these complex deployments, we need to understand that the most basic need is that the voice sounds right, So, yes, and now the answer is yes. In the early days of the technology, there were not enough, devices or different type of devices. But right now, we can surely answer that question. Yes, you can always find the device.
So what do you mean by not? So I just want to clarify this. I'm looking at it from the customer point of view. So what do you mean by not the right amount of devices?
So 5 or 10 years ago, there was limited number of those vendors. You had maybe like a choice of 1 or 2 different vendors making like ruggedized devices. Now today, you have a lot of vendors manufacturing those devices. So that's why there's way much more options with a lot more accessories, whether like noise cancellation and so on, which 5 or 10 years ago wasn't available in the market. So that's why there's been a huge change in the past.
And look, you can offer the most wonderful network with the best features at all, but if you're not able to basically deliver the basic voice communication need, then you're going to fail. So that's what worries. I would say the major worry.
The device, the end device. Change management is a big thing in mining. So miners, they used to have like a push to talk, they push, and it works, right? So it has to do the same feel than they used to have before. So that's really same robustness. So that was maybe lacking 5 or 10 years ago, which now is available.
Right. Okay. And Eric, what are some major questions you get? And we can go back, Carlos, if there's another one that pops into your mind.
Well, the deployment and support and maintenance, like let's say for the deployment of the network. So how easy or how complicated is it to deploy? The nice thing with our 4G, 5G solution is very easy to deploy. It's actually the electricians that deploy this on the ground. As the mine expand, they just keep adding section of cable. So you don't need skilled engineers or highly trained people to expand the network. And this is very important, as you mentioned, with skilled labor. This has to be done by people on site. So that's what we've been developing as a solution is expanding the network, because it's easy to do like a 4G, 5G network in a small area or do a proof of concept. It's a totally different thing to expand this to a mine which has like 80 or 100 kilometers, right? So how do you scale this up? So this is a challenge that we were able to solve 7 or 8 years ago, which is now being replicated in more than 75 mines that we've been deploying. So we've been deploying something that is really quick to deploy. And that was also the questions. How complex is this to deploy and to maintain? So that's why we came up with a system which is really easy to maintain by the mine. So that's very important. And as for the push to talk, what's interesting with TASSTA is up to now, if you wanted to add, let's say, like a talk group or a new user, you had to program physically those radios. You have to have those radios and then connect to the radios and program the radios, they say, to add a channel. Today it's all done remotely. Today you just, when using a web interface, you add a talk group, you drag people to the talk group, and you're done. You don't need to physically have access to the device. It's all done now using a web interface. So there's no more need to have physical access to those radios. So that's why it's a completely way to think the new TASSTA way.
And if you want to kick someone out of the group, you can do it as well. No, sorry.
Exactly.
Yep, it's very easy. Very easy.
So I was going to ask, these physical devices then, now are they coming with their own, what capabilities are they coming with off the shelf? Because TASSTA is coming with this whole integrated, now are these radios, are they, an LTE, are they just coming with, and you just put a chip in it? That's what they're designed, they're just a manufactured product? Or are they coming with some sort of pre-programmed thing?
So basically, it's like your smartphone. I mean, they're coming with an operating system that is typically Android. So it's like an Android device. And basically, of course, we are as an application manufacturer, we're going to take advantage of those functionalities. For example, those devices, they typically have a camera, if they have a camera. So then, yes, so suddenly now for us, instead of doing a push to talk, now we can do push to video. So for example, if somebody declares an emergency, I mean, you're not only going to send the audio back to the control room, but now we can open the camera. So now, for example, just imagine a miner declaring an emergency, and then basically, I mean, it presses the emergency button that comes with the device. We're opening the mic, we're sending the location, whether it's GPS or indoor, and we're opening the camera. So we're giving the control room, a lot of information that they can use to kind of, deal with that emergency. So for example, that's...
It comes also with a gyroscope, with all kind of sensors. So we can do man-down detection, we can do lone workers, so we can detect if a worker is on the floor not moving, we can detect this. So in most of those phones now, they come with those features.
Well, I don't know. The old radios wouldn't have done that. What have they? No.
I mean, so some of the more advanced, they studied. I mean, not video, of course. No video, no way. And man-down, yeah, with quite limitations. The very expensive systems, they come with that functionality, but now it's kind of more
like standard, just
standard.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And the cost, there's a huge difference. And the cost of a radio is much lower because of the volume. Like today, everyone is manufacturing devices compatible with 4G, 5G. Right. Whereas the LMR system, there's not as much volume. So at the end, they're more expensive than those 4G, 5G devices. So there's a huge cost difference.
I think we should also clarify with the audience, again, for anybody who doesn't know what a private network is. A private network, again, just correct, but my understanding of it is basically you put up your own tower on location.
Yep.
So you have your own private network. Now, one gap that I don't quite understand, if you put up your 5G tower, and I've been on site and seen them, so they're, I don't know, the one I saw was probably, I don't know, maybe 180 feet tall. You can't go up. People have, the 5G conspiracy people. They think it's like emitting the stuff. You actually can't go stand right in front of it. It is unhealthy to stand right in front of it because you're emitting so much radio wave, basically.
Yes.
If you would stand like 3 feet in front of it, this is
exactly. Yeah. But keep in mind that this is safer than any Wi-Fi or push-to-talk radio or a traditional LMR because this is only transmitting 23 dBm, 250 milliwatt. So that's safer than any other technology, actually.
Yes, I had someone walk me through it all. So there's up there, basically, okay, don't go up there, but everything else, the ratio is just this tiny little thing. So it's quite funny then when you hear someone talking about it. Anyway, I'll stay focused. But that one thing I wanted to then understand though, because that powerful transmitter is then that's how you can. Is it connecting then automatically to other? I'm sorry. I'm trying to get into if someone's in Vancouver and there's a mine in Mexico and there's a mine in Ontario and they're communicating. Do you get to link up with all those other transmitters? Is that how that works?
On site, all the transmitters are connected on site to a network, a fiber optic network on site. So this is what we call a core that is deployed on site. So for communication on site, everything is handled on premise. If you want to have communication with the outside world, this is where we're going to be leveraging like MPLS, existing fiber network from, let's say, from a fiber optic. So if you have a mine in Mexico that wants to talk to a mine in Canada, it's going to use the existing network that is in place. Usually, most of the time, it's fiber optic network. And the mine, they usually have already those connections between the mine themselves. So we're going to leverage that existing fiber connectivity. We're going to leveraging the firewalls as well, because as you know, cybersecurity is a big thing. So typically, we won't use public internet. We're going to use secure link between mines. So everything is fully encrypted. Everything is behind firewalls, and everything will work on premise. It is if you lose the internet for whatever reason. Well, everything will still remain functional on site. You can still go underground. You can still communicate. Worst thing that's going to happen, and maybe you won't be able to talk to somebody outside of the site if there's a, let's say, cyber incident. So that's really important to have everything on premise.
So this is the key thing that tower is, but that right. So that those fiber optics are the communication platform, not that tower. Then
the tower is just connected using the fiber optic to a core which is on premise. So that's everything is on premise basically. So that tower is transmitting a signal which is for the local area basically. So that's how it works.
And then I said, sorry, just to put an end here. I mean, as Eric was saying, and then it becomes a connectivity problem. I mean, I'm sure those mining sites they have, VPN connections, private VPN connections. So that's where, for example, if you're in Vancouver, I mean, you can connect to your corporate VPN, and, if they allow the connectivity, boom, then you are then connected into the mining site that is in Quebec, Yep. So, and that's why basically you can now be part of a network that is, thousands of kilometers away, and you can help people troubleshoot and increase, efficiency in your work.
So we call it SD-WAN or MPLS. So those are a standard way to connect mines together.
Yeah. I actually do want to just quickly go back, because it is something that people do bring up, is the safety of these towers and that. And you actually gave some specific, and I've had the conversation, so I've heard it, but a lot of people actually haven't. So that major one, it emits a certain amount. You probably know the number, depending on the tower. But then as soon as you get into the smaller units, then you actually gave a number. It was like 23
dBm, so 250 milliwatts. So this is the maximum transmit power. And the limitation is to save on battery's life. I mean, Wi-Fi is let's say 1 watt. So Wi-Fi transmits more than this phone, but the battery life on a Wi-Fi device is much shorter. So the industry of 3GPP, they've limited the transmit power in order to save the battery and make sure you can do like a 14-hour shift or even more on a battery. So everything is lower. So the 3GPP receiver, whatever, so 4G or 5G, will be more sensitive than a Wi-Fi receiver. So with one radio, I can cover 6 kilometers of tunnel with one radio underground. It's because it's the receive sensitivity. That radio is so sensitive that it's going to listen to a small signal. So that's why the antenna underground or even on site are not transmitting a lot of power. They don't need to, because my limitation is coming from this device, which cannot talk more than 23 dBm. So for me, there's no point of transmitting high power like a public network, because I'm trying to get data from machines. I'm trying to upload video. I'm trying to upload voice. I'm not trying to download a movie from the Netflix, basically. This is where you need a lot of power on the downlink, when on a public network you want to download a lot of data. But on a mining site, it's the other way around. We're designed for the uplink. How much uplink can I get? How many machines with video can I have? This is the bottleneck. And for this, you don't need to transmit power. So that's the key here.
What is when you're onboarding? Okay, so I want to go just a little bit into the actual onboarding of the software. So, okay, somebody comes to you. So, Eric, they're coming to you first in a lot of cases, right? Okay, so they're coming to you. Then you map out exactly what they want and what they need. Probably those are sometimes two different things. I imagine there's some discussion that has to go back and forth. And then, okay, so let's start with there, and then let's go to the next step, where TASSTA comes in. So what is the initial step, Eric? You map everything out, and then what happens?
So for us, it's pretty easy. So we've done so many mines. I think we've done more than 800 kilometers now of underground tunnels. So they just send us the mine drawings, and quickly we send a bill of material and say, look, that's what you need to cover 100%. And we cover 100%. So we have coverage at the phase, high speed. So in all our design, so which was impossible before with other technologies, whether it was the old Leaky feeder or Wi-Fi, it's impossible to have 100% coverage. So this is what we do: is we send a bill of material, the mine to deploy the system. Once the system is deployed, this is where now they are connecting applications or enabling use cases, whatever it's tracking. So we can track asset, we can track machines. We now can track workers in real time if there's an emergency. So we enable, of course, the remote control of machines, and we enable the push to talk. So this is where Carlos comes into the play, basically.
Yeah, basically, and again, it's very important to understand what they need versus what they want as well. And basically, I mean, we need to ask them, how many users do you have in your current radio system? What's the plan for that radio system? Are you going to need, some interconnection in the meantime while you migrate from, one system to the other? Or, I mean, sometimes they start using push-to-talk over LTE on a specific set of users while they keep the other set of users on the radio system. And they use that group to really understand, how they want to operate the new network. I mean, which are the preferred devices. So kind of they select a beta testing group, and they run with that group of users to, I don't know, they maybe go through 2 different types of devices and different types of configurations. So they're learning, while they use the system. And basically that's kind of the process we're seeing. And that's why, our typical deployments, even for mining sites that they have 2,000-3,000 users, they start with 300 users on the push-to-talk side, and they start learning, their learning curve about the new technology. And I think that's a very good, process. I think mining sites are typically really smart in the way they do their, because I mean they know they can't stop production, so they really need to plan well, and that's why I think we're being so successful there.
What when you developed the software? What so the company pivoted now several years ago. Now, did you develop the software from ground up? Did you partner up with some? If you, I don't know, if, I don't want to get into something
No,
that's like
no, no, no,
confidential.
no, no,
But
no, no, no. That's fine. No, no, no. So look, TASTA's headquarters are in Germany. So basically, I joined TASTA when I left my other company, and the origin of the software is software developers and a very smart general manager that also comes from radio. So I mean, when the software was designed, I mean, it was always in the mind of the designers and the general manager to kind of bring a software that resembled the way the radio system worked, and that it was easy for the users to kind of make a transition between that old radio system and the new software. So I think that perspective is a really, really important one, because you have to bring something that kind of adds value, but also ensures continuity. And I think that's very important.
And the learning curve wasn't, is it pretty straightforward? I'm sure both of you've kind of got frontline experience with it. Do people onboard it pretty quick?
It's actually pretty impressive to see how easy it is to use the TASTA software, because they're not all easy to use. And again, change management is a big thing, so it has to be simple. It has to be as similar as what they had before with the old traditional. So yes, it's the case with TASTA.
Yeah, and it's funny, sorry, Jared, just to end on this, because I mean, we have hundreds or thousands of features, so the most critical part of it is how to make it simple for those users that they only need maybe 10 at the beginning, and I think we've enabled, that configuration setting on our system, so you can bring the system down to the very basic, and then start expanding. You start expanding when you go step by step. I was mentioning video. I mean, there are a lot of ways to do video. We can do video streaming, we can do video conferences, but honestly, when you are starting to use the system, you may not use video, or you just use video for emergencies. So then, once and the learning curve, I mean, they start working, then maybe they start adding new features that they are cool, and but it has to be with time.
I'm gonna play the devil's advocate just for a second. Are there any use cases where the leaky feeder system, the old radio system, is still the way to go? Obviously, there's so many examples where it's not, but are there any examples where you just go, no, this is the right?
The old Leaky feeder system is a 20-30 years old technology, and which is using lower frequency, which in a tunnel does not propagate very well, by the way. So the frequency that we use are actually propagating better than the old Leaky feeder. So we have a cable which is as easy to deploy, which is more robust because it's no longer a daisy chain and has a better propagation. So honestly, I don't see why people will keep using the old Leaky feeder, other than they already have it in place and they just want to expand it. But otherwise, there's no advantage that I see personally that justify to keep to infrastructure or to keep the old infrastructure.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's fair. I was just curious if there's sometimes there's these little like legacy systems like, no, this particular situation and this particular configuration, you need it.
I think it's more of a state of mind.
Right.
How safe they feel to change. And also, I mean, when they invested on that, I mean, sometimes also there are investment cycles, so maybe now it's time for them to start experiencing on a small subset of users while they prepare for the migration 2-3 years, down the road, and they keep using their old radio system in the meantime, So I think that's kind of the process we're seeing.
I'll leave you both this question. Where does it go next for TASTA? Where is sort of the next level that it can get to? Ambra, obviously you're on the ground. Eric, what do you see? Just sort of we don't need to go into 20 years from now when we're all in like an AI simulation or something, but just regular, how much further can the technology kind of go as is in the current infrastructure?
Well, in 4G, 5G, the nice thing is now that we can connect both voice and video, the future is both in mining and other vertical market is automation. That's for sure. We see all of those mining companies building control rooms, remotely controlling machines. We have mines that on the weekend and at night, there's no longer people working underground. install machines, basically. So this is where we are today, and this is what's going to be for the next 5 or 10 years. And a mine that does not invest into that technology will be lagging behind other that they do invest. New mines now, they're designed differently. Now that they have the ability to have 100% coverage, new mines they have now a dedicated shaft or dedicated ramp only for automated trucks, which wasn't possible 5 or 10 years ago because the technology wasn't there. So this is what I see in the past 10 years will be. You'll have mines, especially underground, that will be designed completely different to leverage that 4G, 5G infrastructure. And so that's the future, basically, of mining.
Yeah, no, I mean, I fully agree with Eric. I mean, in terms of our application, I mean, we're still starting, to do the migration from the old technology into this new technology. Of course, we're bringing new features. Every year we're bringing AI that can help people, configure the system on a more efficient way. But at the end of the day, for us, it's about migrating mining sites, into the new technology. I mean, you have to understand. I mean, we live in a continent. I mean, in North America, where still you have analog radio systems that were, installed 35 years ago or 40 years ago. So I mean, and they haven't even migrated into digital, and now we're coming with a new technology. So,
Right. Yeah.
For us, the next 10 years, hopefully, we're going to keep, growing exponentially and getting more and more mining sites. But yeah, sure, we are adding features like AI that can help, people.
And you need to hire like someone, say, okay, you're going to spend 12 hours on the ground. You have either the choice of using like a voice only or your phone, which you can do team call with your supervisors. You can reach. Today it's also how do you want to attract the new people that will work on the ground, right? So you have to provide some kind of more advanced communication.
Yeah. I just didn't ask. Just scale of operation. Where's sort of the starting point where this makes sense to invest in this type of system, and sort of where does it max out at? I'm sure there's not really a max, but
in terms of LT, I will say it's a few kilometers for underground mines, let's say, to invest into like a 4G, 5G infrastructure, and of course we have a system that have up to 10,000 users connected on 4G, 5G. Carlos, I'll let you answer for the.
Yeah, no, I mean, for us, I mean, we have projects that it's 20, 30 users. It's a very small operation because, again, it is very simply deployable. So even for small systems, it makes even more sense to deploy this technology versus all radio technology. And yeah, we have deployments, or even we have customers and ongoing, RFPs that they are going up to 40, 50,000 users, worldwide. It's a completely different setup. But yeah, we don't really have a scale here. Yeah.
It's sure fun to be able to do this show and just kind of get to, I always say to people, and it's almost easy for me to forget. In most jobs, you just sit there and live in your little bubble. My job, I get to just talk to everybody doing everything in mining. So it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun having both of you on. Are both of you going to Mine Expo in September? Will both of you be there?
I will be in Mine Expo as well. Yep. So
me too.
Well, I'm running all over the place doing interviews, so I'll just have to send you my schedule and maybe we can cross paths.
A fist bump or something,
Exactly. Gentlemen, it was very much a pleasure to have you both on, and I certainly hope we do it again.
Anytime.
Thank you, Gerard.
Thank you. Okay, and of course we'll have links to both Ambra and to TASSTA in the description below, everyone. You can connect with Carlos or Eric. They both have LinkedIn pages, so those will be on there, so you can follow them. And please, if for whatever reason you haven't followed the show yet, please hit the subscribe button on Mining Now. We will see you on the next episode of the show.